Telekom's webinar. Please note that this conference will be recorded and uploaded to the Internet. May I now hand over to Mr. Stefan Eger.
Yeah, good afternoon and welcome to all of you to our fourth thematic webinar. As you know, there is an increasing importance of socially responsible investment in the capital markets and a lot of evidence that long-term business success is extremely linked to the integration of a strong corporate responsibility strategy. We at DT have set high standards here and integrated ESG, environmental, social and governance aspects across the whole value chain. Having said that, please let me now hand over to our expert, Senior Vice President Birgit Klesper, who's heading the Department of Corporate Responsibility and Group Transformational Change for the first part of today's webinar, which is a 30 minutes presentation, which then will be followed by a Q&A session. Important is that you'll find the disclaimer in the presentation, and without any further ado, over to you, Birgit.
Thank you, Stefan. Good afternoon. A warm welcome to this first SRI webinar from my side as well. I will lead you through the presentation and will give you a first insight into our corporate social responsibility strategy and about some major topics that I would like to present to you today. If we look at the slide DT's mission, you all know that telecommunications infrastructure is fundamental for a modern, competitive and sustainable society. So by this already, we do have a corporate and a responsibility towards society. And if we look at the DT's mission statement by our CEO, Tim Höttges, where he says, we Deutsche Telekom are more than just another company which provides society with infrastructure. We are a trusted companion, whatever the circumstances, always and everywhere, so meaning in both people's and private lives. But we know trust is built on responsibility and on the way we do business. We have a holistic approach on corporate social responsibility, comprising the three dimensions of CSR: people, planet, profit. And our strategy is, of course, derived from the corporate strategy and closely linked to it. We put a very special focus on three strategic areas which are connected with our core business. Connected life and work, meaning being a major force for sustainable connected life and work. Connect the unconnected. So how can we enable people to participate in the information and knowledge society regardless of age, level of education, social background? And last but not least, low carbon society, being a leader on the road to a low carbon society in reducing on the one hand the carbon emissions ourselves in the company, and on the other hand in enabling our customers to make a contribution to climate protection. So furthermore, at the next slide, we see that our aim is, next to these three focus areas, to, of course, implement CR into the whole value chain of our organization. As you can see, CR is multifaceted, from corporate governance to customer sustainable supply chain management, environment, responsibility towards our employees and towards the society up to the financial market. On this chart, you just see some of the topics that we showcase and that we are working on, but it's of course not the complete overview. This as a general introduction to our CR strategy, our approach and our understanding, and I now want to deliver you into some selected topics regarding governance, suppliers, climate, employees, society, and our achievements. Let me start with governance. As you probably know, Deutsche Telekom has a strong best practice recognized governance structure for data privacy and compliance. This governance structure was established in response to the loss of customer trust arising from incidents concerning the misuse of data and external access to customers in 2008. And it is very clear that after those incidents, we took prompt actions. For example, we established an own board area for data privacy, legal affairs, and compliancy. We took transparency and prevention measures and improved the control mechanism immediately and prevention measures group-wide. By taking these actions, we regained our reputation, and we became once more the most trustworthy company. This was shown by an independent study that was done. Today, we are again best practice on privacy, security, legal, and compliance, and our governance model is really clearly defined. Let me elaborate a little bit on that. We have binding corporate rules for privacy, which ensure the same high level of data protection worldwide. It covers the collection of storage and processing of personal data, and of course it applies to the whole Deutsche Telekom group and its subsidiaries. The binding corporate rules for privacy comply with the Federal Data Protection Act as well as European and international data protection guidelines, and they even go beyond statutory minimum standards in some of the areas. The rollout will be completed by the end of 2014, and we have more than 400 employees, of which 100 employees are data privacy officers that work in the field of security to really guarantee implementation of IT systems, processes, and high-level data protection standards at Deutsche Telekom sites in Germany and around the world. This is not yet all. Of course, we have group-wide training measures. We have set a virtual school to train all employees. It's a web-based data protection training center in dealing with different levels of trainings and all aspects of corporate data protection available 7 days, 24 hours. If you do data protection, you have to control. That's why we do group-wide audits, and the data protection audits are carried out on an annual basis to evaluate how much telecom employees know about data protection on the one hand, and on the other hand, how well they implement this know-how into the day-to-day business. Just one figure, in 2013, 36,000 employees from 33 group companies took part, and we have a performance indicator that showed once again significant improvement. Additionally to that, we have regular international on-site audits that are conducted, looking on the systems, and the results again showed that the group-wide data protection has stabilized at a high level. And last but not least, we are very much into a transparent communication. We do not only publish annual reports on privacy and security, we provide as well consumers and customers with extensive information on the topics of data privacy and IT security via a number of channels, not only the homepage, e-papers, and in our semi-annual reports on security on the internet that focuses, for example, on online threats and effective countermeasures. And shortly we will have our first cybersecurity summit for kids, so the range is being open for questions of all age groups of our customers. Building on that, you see that we developed a strategy because with the achievements, our strategy on data privacy and security consists of 3 pillars, which means defense on the one hand, then it regards our brand, and last but not least, the opportunity that we see in the market. As well here, I would like to give you a deeper insight, which you see on the slide 8. Let me talk first about defense. At peak times, Deutsche Telekom's IT systems register up to 800,000 digital attacks a day on our web portals. 90% of these attacks can be averted by properly maintained IT systems immediately. Furthermore, in April this year, we opened an intelligent cyber defense center that allows us to track down increasingly professional attacks on our systems and networks. The ultimate aim is here to identify cyber attacks significantly earlier than that was previously possible. For corporate customers, T-Systems will develop new security services from this defense center. We have an intelligent tool that allows us to specifically recognize behavioral patterns that indicate cyber attacks on this basis of defined search parameters, and we can carry out real-time checks in this way allows us to take countermeasures immediately and very quickly in the event of the attack. In the in the aspect of defense, we do security testing. This is an important measure in order to safeguard and protect our group, our data, and also customers' data and the customer data. We test our customers' business processes on complex IT system landscapes in our data centers, and we look there, of course, at various aspects, including functionality, performance, availability, and security. And let me give you just a few other measures that we have. For example, our bug bounty program. As you probably know, the bug bounty term comes from the bounty hunting, Kopfgeldjagd in German, and in this case, it's hunting for program errors. Deutsche Telekom initiated that because we want to find out our weaknesses in web portals of the Telekom.de domain. And it is an open bounty, bug bounty program, so everybody can participate. Excluded from participation, however, are our employees or former employees. And from there, we get knowledge on possible weakness, and we can work on that. As you know, cybersecurity professionals are rare. That's why we also started to train so-called cybersecurity professionals in apprenticeship programs of Deutsche Telekom. Facing increasing cyber attacks, these IT experts are in great demand, not only in our organization and in our company. And last but not least, I want to give you the example of honeypots. Honeypots, that means that we have set up a multi-level early warning system, a so-called honeypot infrastructure that helps us to identify more efficiently and fight more efficiently criminal attacks. These honeypots, they are deliberately weak points to provoke attacks, so we can gain experience on what kind of attacks we might be exposed. These are all internal measures, and we have an external measure for our customers as well. We have a dedicated abuse team as a point of contact to report abuse of one of our internet services. For example, in 2013, over 450,000 customers were informed that their computers were infected, and we provided them with precise information how to disinfect their computers and how to save them. And furthermore, we get over 1 million indications of customer of possible problems that this team is follow up on and is trying to see what to do. Let me come to the next topic, brand. Our brand is a valuable possession that we need to protect. So we have controls which increased significantly. Since 2009, we did more than 450 internal and several hundred external data privacy and security audits, for example, done by DEKRA, which is an official German certification institute, and all our telecom shops in Germany are certified. The security policy framework includes the group security policies, and therefore also the standards related to data security are based on the international standards of SIO ISO 27001, which is one of the certifications. One topic that we get asked, how do we deal with lawful interceptions and data provisions that requires very careful consideration, because first we have to safeguard the secrecy of telecommunications and the protection of personal data, as well as implement the measures and requests closely. Both, of course, with strict respect for legal framework applicable in the respective country. We did for the first time publish in 2014 our transparency report that discloses the extent of cooperations with German security agency. You can find that on our internet. We are subject to several legal obligations to enable lawful interception measures and answer data enforcement and public security tasks. Each country has its own framework, which a telecommunications network provider has to comply with. For example, in Germany, only German authorities under certain conditions, and we have a specialist team that are looking deeply into it and are really looking behind it, have the authority to request data. Foreign security services do not have any authority in Germany. And last but not least, on this topic, come to the market. As I already mentioned, our new cybersecurity center is the basis for developing measures and products and services. And our cybersecurity business area plays a key role in developing privacy and security services and solutions. So we are able to offer corporate customers a full range of security solutions. We are constantly expanding our security portfolio and thus help us make the internet safer for all our customers and even more effectively. A few examples on mobile privacy. We offer a graduated end-to-end product portfolio for mobile security and privacy solutions. It allows customers themselves to decide how their personal and business data will be handled and which security level they want to select for specific business applications. The product portfolio ranges from anti-malware app to the SIMCO 3 high-security mobile phone and stands out with its ease of use. Different modules are available for consumers as well as for our business customers. Big data. Due to our high-level security and privacy standards and our long experience, of course, we are able to manage big data infrastructure as a service, enabling partners to start projects on our platforms directly instead of building it from the scratch. Let's change the topic and come to the compliance topic. We have established a clear group-wide governance on compliance. All relevant regulations are met. And as mentioned, with the establishment of the board area, data, privacy, security, legal compliance is on a high top level position. The activities are structured according prevent, identify, and respond. We have a chief compliance officer, central and local compliance organization, implemented our code of conduct. We do group-wide risk assessments, and the more than 20,000 employees got intensive training in 2013. And here as well, our compliance management system is certified. And of course, there's no doubt that compliance is an integral part of our business processes. One of our pillars, very important for corporate responsibility, is how we deal with sustainable supply chain management. So the next slide seems to be a little complicated. Let me run you through it. We have a four-level approach to minimize risks and encourage our suppliers to improve their practices. The chart illustrates how we do that. First of all, as pre-qualification, we initially ask potential suppliers with an order volume of more than 1,100 euros to answer questions on sustainable aspects. These are related to human rights, corruption, as well as to environmental protection and occupational health and safety. Since 2030, we take in our procurement department into account sustainability criteria when inviting for bids. They are weighted at 10% along with other aspects such as price and quality. They are based on our CR clause, on the social charter, code of conduct, and are laid out in the general terms and conditions of purchasing. We have clear requirements that suppliers need to commit to, as already mentioned, code of conduct, social charter, but as well the fraud policy, call-down statements, and the statements on extractors and requirements on components and materials. When the business relationship proceeds, we ask strategically relevant suppliers and high-risk suppliers to enter extensive information about their practices into the e-task self-assessment information. e-task stands for Electronic Tool for Accountable Supply Chains. For suppliers with a higher risk and in selected cases, we conduct on-site social audits. Not only we do focus on our direct suppliers, but as well we address sub-suppliers as far as possible. To boost the effectiveness of our audits We are collaborating currently with 9 other telecommunication companies on a joint audit cooperation, for example, with Belgacom, Orange, KPN, Telenor, Swisscom, Telecom Italia, and some others. The major findings of our audits are normally related to occupational health and safety, corporate ethics, as well to working hours. In 2013, we identified a total of 342 violations of telecom supplier requirements, and based on these findings, we immediately introduce and have to improve the supplier to improve conditions on site, and this is presented in the so-called corrective action plan. But let me make it very clear. Our objective is not to terminate immediately supplier's contract, but we are convinced that if you really want to make a difference, you need to directly engage with suppliers in a partnership approach aiming to really achieve long-lasting improvements. And that's why, together with the corrective action plan, we give the supplier time to improve. Furthermore, we recently implemented a supplier development program. So the first 3 steps which I presented to you are basically focusing on risk assessment, but this one is really engaging with the supplier on a voluntary basis. We work together with them in a CSR development partnership to achieve a great step forward in their CSR performance. And as a result, the supplier will not only improve the CR performance, but will become more efficient, more productive, and will have more stability within the workforce, for example, less fluctuation, and this is a clear win-win situation for society, for us, DT, as well for the supplier. As I said, one of our pillars of our strategy, the focus areas, is low-carbon society. So let's talk about our climate target. The goal is to reduce total CO2 emissions by 20% by the year 2020 compared to the basis of the year 2008. We cluster the emissions into the area of fixed and mobile network, data center facilities, and others like, for example, business traveling or green car policy. As you can see, the biggest reduction we achieve in the cluster fixed networks through the conversion of all IP. We are expanding our mobile infrastructure with LTE and 3G. That's why we see an increase in this cluster, but more efficient technology lowers the increase. The performance of data center is doubling in future, but through virtualization and consolidation, there will be only an increase by 3%. And through optimization and energy efficiency measure, emissions of facilities will be reduced by 16%. Making sure that energy needs do not grow despite increasing amounts of data and high expansion of modern network technology will pose a significant challenge to us, as one of our aims is to provide our products and services to our customer in a way that are energy efficient. That's why we are constantly working on identifying further efficiency potentials in order not only to make sure that we reach the 20%, but maybe even more. Helping with this is another topic, is the use, for example, of electricity from renewable energy sources in order to achieve ongoing reductions on CO2 emission. CO2 is not only internally a question for us. ICT, information communication technology, is an enabler. As the Smarter 2020 study of JESI shows, Global E-Sustainability Initiatives, there is a high potential in the information and communication technology to fight against climate change. The study says that ICT-enabled solutions offer a potential to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases in 2020 by 16.5%. So DT helps industry and consumers to reduce emissions by offering intelligent solutions such as connected car, smart grid, or in logistics or smart home. Let me just give you some examples of some successful pilot projects and some projects. For example, our project Deutsche Bahn Schenker in China It is a mobile logistics cost management that we do in public-private partnership with the GIZ and the ministry. And one of the goals is that we are enabling fuel reduction of annual 4%. Or let's take a look at KiwiCom. KiwiCom is an alliance of leading industrial companies in Germany. Its goal is to drive forward the topic of smart home applications and unify the smart home products from a wide range of companies in various sectors. Together with partners, we are developing a platform to serve the areas of energy efficiency and as well security and convenience at home. Another example is our international logistic company project, where we are in for energy efficiency management for buildings and reduction in service and support effort and preventive maintenance are reducing energy. This just to give you some examples on how we can enable our customers. I now want to change to another topic, to employees. One challenge that we have in our society is demography management, since population in Europe is getting older. Today, there are 4 to 5 generations working within one enterprise. We need to ensure and support the working ability of our employees regardless of age, and we need to make the best use out of multi-general workforce. I give you some figures. Average age of employees in Deutsche Telekom Group is 41 years. In Germany, it's almost 45, and 11% in Germany are older than 55 years. That means demography management is an important pillar of our strategy and is based on 5 areas. Just shortly to give you an overview. Qualification. We really need to rethink qualification because the potential of a workforce consists of knowledge, experience, skills, and expertise, and has constantly to be cultivated by qualification measures which are adapted to the actual phase of private and professional life, whether this is a young person at the start of the career or whether you are over 50 or even before retirement. And you need to do it as well according to the business needs. So we developed qualification and training measures that are focused on blended learning. What means blended learning? This is according to the needs and preferences of different age groups, and it's a combination of different learning methods from traditional classroom learning, e-learning, and other agile learning methods. Furthermore, we removed the age-based restriction. Keyword long life learning, and very often in companies when you were over 50 you did not get any trainings anymore. This is different within Deutsche Telekom. Big topic in demography management is health. Workplace health promotion is important in order to secure mental and physical health. And let me state clear, employees between 50 and 65 are not sick more often than younger people, but if they are off, then they are absent for longer time. We established a comprehensive program of health prevention measures like influenza vaccination, preventive medical checkup for early detection of cancer, fitness programs, and educational programs and health consulting, because it's a very important economical factor that you have a healthy workforce. If you work with multi-generations in one company, there are sometimes higher potential of conflicts, and that's why you need to implement a leadership culture that is valuing the strengths of elderly employees and that fosters management to 4 to 5 different generations in one company. So demography-related modules are integrated in the development programs and into the leadership programs, and in this way we need as well to redefine the definition of talent. A talent is not only a young talent, a talent can be somebody over 50 or 55, doing some new qualification measures and then bringing new know-how into a company. Two other things, working conditions and work organization are strongly influencing the work ability and employee satisfactions. That's why we develop and implement a demography-oriented program. It comprises lifetime working accounts for multi-generational knowledge transfer tandems. We have different measures for work-life balance, whether this is family and work, and we make work more flexible. We have subsidized part-time employment prior to retirement, parental leave, but as well leave for taking care of sick parents, sabbaticals, mobile working, just to name a few examples on how we flexibilize work. As well, in planning and recruiting, you have to take care of a more demographic balance, so age-based simulation of future workforce in order to know what kind of future skills and what kind of structure we need are done on a regular basis. We introduced age diversity in our employer branding, and we developed measures to attract special target groups as well in mid-years people. Last but not least, to the topic society and social engagement. Let me highlight some of our activities there. We have the Telekom Foundation since 10 years already, and this focuses especially on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to foster them, because we know there we have a shortage in knowledge, especially in Germany and as well in Europe. This foundation is from the kindergarten up to professional life, fostering the better education in these topics. Digital inclusion is one very important topic for us. We want to provide people with easy access to information and communication technology, and especially help them with the responsible use in order to reduce digital divide. And there we have different measures when it comes to competence in media and internet, to online safety, whether this is for young people, kids, or even for the elder generation. We have different other initiatives where we are reaching children and people in the society with projects where we are engaging, for example, with the initiative Yes, I Can. And last but not least, when it comes to social engagement, the face of social engagement is really the face of our own people. We have an extensive program of corporate volunteering. In 2013, over 17,000 people of our company were engaged, whether this was in disaster relief or in ICT usage or in social and charity engagements. Let's sum up. We want to remain one of the leading companies in CR, and we have a clear ambition for the topics as I presented you today, with some insights on specific topics. And one of our overall approach is to implement CSR in the whole value chain of our company. Through our comprehensive governance on compliance, data, privacy, and security, we build trust for consumers, customers, and all our stakeholders. Our effort in a sustainable supply chain management is measured by our KPI, sustainable procurement. This KPI is the share of risk-covered order volume via self-assessment, pre-qualification, or with audits. We have a goal, 75% by 2015. We reached in 2013 55%. Actually, we are on a very good way. We are over 65% to reach our target in 2015. I explained you our climate target. We want to reduce total emissions by 20% by the year 2020 compared to 2008. And this KPI includes, for example, as well the reduction of our average fleet emissions from 167 grams to 110 grams in 2015 for new cars in our fleet. Next to demography management, one very big topic that you probably know, our efforts on fair share, 30% of women in management positions by 2015. Actually, we are with 25% of women in management positions. And last but not least, our activities on Connect the Unconnected or digital inclusion. We want to enable as many people as possible to participate in the information and knowledge society. Thank you very much for listening.
And thank you very much, Birgit. Now it's time for the Q&A session. If you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your touch-tone telephone. I will announce your name when it's your turn to ask a question. Should you require to cancel the question, please press the pound sign. In addition to the phone questions, obviously you can always send your questions via email to investor.relations@telekom.de or via Twitter on our Telecom hashtag, or if you include the DTIR tag in your tweet. And now, without any further ado, I think we start with the first question, which comes from Stefan Borscheid. Stefan, please go ahead.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for taking my question. On your last chart, on your ambitions, you mentioned where you stand at the moment with regard to suppliers and employees. How about your climate ambitions? Well, you target 20% by 2020. Where do you stand? Where do you stand today? And second question with regard to your society ambitions. Where do you see actually the participation rate in the information and knowledge society at the moment? So how do you actually measure that? And is there also a specific target you want to reach here? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. First of all, where do we stand with the reduction of the CO2 emissions? So we are not disclosing yet year-to-year results, but I can tell you we give always a tendency, and the tendency is that we are a little bit lower than our forecast, internal forecast. But I have to explain. The goal that we want to reach in 2020 is not a goal where every year we are going down in our emissions. It is firstly going up because we are expanding largely our networks. And when it comes to really then switching, for example, to all IP, and when we really have established our new networks as well in the mobile network, then by 2020 we will have a reduction by 20%. So at the moment it's going a little bit up. From last year compared to this year, we are stable, and by 2018, we are really expecting that we will go down much more dramatically, that this is the case at the moment, because it's a long-term strategy.
Okay.
To your question, digital inclusion and participation rate, how many people do we want to include, and do we have a KPI? No, we don't have a KPI there, to be very honest on that. We are actually looking in how to measure it. We are working on it. We are thinking that by 2015, maybe we are introducing a KPI. At the moment, no.
Okay, thank you.
Stefan, what is also paying into the digital inclusion is obviously all what we're doing in terms of building out the modern broadband ICT infrastructure, i.e. that we have invested over 30 billion over 3 years in the future telecommunications network, that we have set specific targets with respect to LTE coverage, with respect to FTTC /vectoring targets, and also the migration towards all IP. That is obviously also paying at least indirectly into the digital inclusion targets. I think we continue with Alex Jossen from Standard Life and Investment. Alex, please.
Hi, yeah, thank you for taking my question, and thank you for this very interesting presentation. So my question regards, I have two questions, and it regards data protection and privacy. So first, because you are very transparent on all those aspects, and you're clearly a leader on that. So I was wondering if you had an idea of the cost related to just upgrading all your data protection system and like this very well-structured governance that you have in place, because it's something that it's necessary, but we don't really see like companies disclosing like how much it costs to actually implement that. Second question, which is related, is that apparently you have done like quite a little bit of analysis on the weaknesses and future challenges that you face related to data protection and privacy. So I would like maybe to have an idea of what are those challenges or areas of improvement that you have identified. And the last part of my question regards big data. So I was just curious on the kind of services that you propose if you collect data, how you use that data, what are you clients on those type of solutions? And if you had like additional kind of data privacy rules and rules on that, because it's a very particular kind of data. So yeah, thank you.
Alex, it's Stefan. Maybe I start with the first one. Actually, we don't have precise data when it comes to the investments in terms of upgrading all data protection systems, because there is no real measure in order to differentiate and also to set apart what we do, in terms of investments into our IT for consumer protection, with what we do, in terms of internal data protection, legal requirements, and so on and so forth. We spend roughly around 4 billion capex in Germany, and remember, not all IT investments are necessarily always covered by capex. It's a distinction between capex and opex. But if we, for simplicity reasons, would now look at capex, we spend around about 4 billion of capex in DT in Germany on an annual basis, and I would reckon that roughly 20–25% of that is broadly IT, but in a broader sense, and it's very difficult to break that down in terms of what that actually means in terms of how much is spent on data protection and privacy. I'm sorry for that.
Maybe I come to then big data. So your question is, what do we do in big data? So let me give you a few more examples on what we do for our customers, and then what is about the big data new market. So I said that we are managing big data infrastructure as a service to enable our partners to start the projects immediately on our platforms, and they don't have all these security measures, so they don't need to build it from scratch. But furthermore, we do innovation workshops. So for example, innovative approach on how to implement data technology and advising our customers. We do big data proof of concept offerings on platform computing services. We make big data readiness assessments. And as you know, our USP, and you said it, is the high security standard and the high scalable platforms that we have, no ramp-up time, and as well joint offerings with best-in-class partners, for example. To big data, using data, so to make it very clear, we have privacy rules for big data, which are very strict. You can find them, by the way, as well in our internet. And if we use any data, or if we ask customers, they always, or consumers, they are always asked, and they have to give their permission. So we never ever use any data of consumer in a way that they are not given to us, and we have very strict rules, privacy rules for big data. There was a third question. That was this, I think, yeah?
Which was about weaknesses and challenges on data protection and privacy.
Which were what? I couldn't get that. Could you repeat it?
Yeah, sorry. Apparently, I've done quite a lot of work in analyzing the weaknesses and the future challenges.
The biggest challenge is definitely that, first of all, when it comes to the creativity of people trying to attack our systems, this is not a standstill. It is growing every day. So you're always confronted with new ways. And one of the big challenges, of course, to keep up on that. We are also committed, by the way, to support the European General Data Protection Regulations, which guarantees universal high standards throughout Europe. This is a data protection regulation that would oblige all providers wanting to offer services in Europe to comply with EU privacy law, just to add on the first question.
Thank you.
Alex, did that answer your questions?
Perfect, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Birgit. And we move on. Next question is coming from Jean-Xavier Hecker from Natixis, and the questions were being sent over via internet. And I'll read out the first question to you, and then we continue to answer them. So what kind of big data solutions have you developed to date is the first question he'll be having. Secondly, when it comes to the processing of personal data, are you using personal data from external sources, e.g. like social networks, and how do you ensure that the finality or purpose of your processing is not incompatible with the finality for which the data was originally collected? And third question was, how do you assess the risk of de-anonymization of anonymous data sets?
Oh.
Do we start?
Maybe I start with question one, because I tried to tell you already in the last answer a little bit on what we do from consultancy to platform to storing data. I hope this answers the questions already a little bit. When it comes to processing of personal data, are we using it from external sources? It's a very short answer. No, we don't. And last but not least, I must say your third question, how do you assess the risk of de-anonymization of anonymous data sets? We would deliver the answer further on. I'm not deep into it. I'm looking at Stefan Eger, whether he can help.
Yeah, and maybe it would be helpful if you could really elaborate a bit more what you actually mean with that question, because I don't think that we fully have now assessed what the background of your question is. So simply hand it in via email. If we find the answer throughout the call, we'll be obviously delivering it over the call. If not, we'll get to you thereafter, Jean-Xavier. Now moving on, the next on the line is Peter Kurt Nielsen from Kepler Cheuvreux. Peter Kurt, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. A couple of questions, please. Birgit, first of all, you obviously have a sophisticated and well-developed approach towards SRI, and obviously for the reasons etc. that you outlined. At a side effect, I mean, are there any? Do you think this is any way gives you a competitive edge in your day-to-day business? Are there any examples you could give us where you think that has a positive approach, positive impact on your competitiveness? And secondly, I would also be interested in, you obviously, Deutsche Telekom operates in many markets, many different markets, not least in Europe. Are there any of these, I don't know if you can comment on this, any markets where you feel that your approach is more challenging for you to operate in these markets, and sort of as a byproduct of this, have you ever taken any consequences, i.e. have you ever terminated a supplier relationship or imposed other sanctions with some of your partners, supplier, etc. for these reasons? Thank you.
Peter Kurt, maybe I start off, and then Birgit just carries on. I think where we definitely see a competitive edge in the day-to-day business is the overall topic of data privacy and data security. What we see, for example, at T-Systems with respect to the data centers, there is an increasing demand for German data centers. You know, there has been a huge trend throughout the last decade with respect to nearshoring and offshoring data centers, and I think it's fair to say that at least partially we see a reversal of that trend with respect to the orders that we get in on the T-Systems. Secondly, there is also on the consumer side an increasing demand for data security and data privacy. You may know that we have, together with our colleagues at United Internet, who run the GMX and Web.de platforms in Germany, that we have a so-called kind of German email, trusted email, which we are, by the way, also jointly marketing and doing advertising campaigns upon, and we see a very good demand and a good success rate of that product as well. Anything to add, Birgit, on that one?
Yes, I would like even to add on this one, because there are even other competitive advantages. For example, even with your own workforce, you have a competitive advantage, because we know very well that people are much more motivated to work in a company that really has a well-renowned corporate responsibility activity. And we are even asking that in our employee service, how our employees judge on the CR activities of our company. We get pretty good rates on there, and we know that people are more engaged. and feel better to work for Deutsche Telekom. It is as well to attract talents from the outside, because coming and deciding about for whom you work, you rather would like to work for a corporate responsible company than for a company that is not responsible. And last not least, apart from the products and services that Stefan already mentioned, even though people today do not buy always sustainable products, but the interest in a sustainable lifestyle and in buying products that are made in a sustainable way are constantly increasing. And as well, it plays a role in your brand reputation and in the reputation that we have with the customers. Just to give you a few other examples that it is a competitive advantage. Now, operating in many markets, it is a challenge, of course, to implement CR in the whole company. But us being mainly in Europe and not operating, I don't know, in Russia or in Africa, I cannot tell you that we have really different, big differences, because all the countries we are operating in are well developed, and they have as well strict rules already from their governance when it comes to environmental or health and safety, environmental protection or social protection. Okay. Have we ever, when it comes to sustainable supply chain, this is one of my favorite topics, I must admit, because it is really a challenge how to develop suppliers. For example, when you're working with suppliers in China, even though these are only 3% of our suppliers that are coming from China or other markets there. Did we ever terminate a contract? No, we didn't. Because so far we didn't, but we would if we would not see any improvements. That's why I said we have clear action plans, and there is timing behind it, up to what time we want to see the improvements, and we go into the sites and look really that these improvements are established. There are zero tolerance incidents that have to be taken actions immediately, and there are others, as I said, where we leave them a few months or even a year to change things. But to make it very clear, we have a clear escalation processes installed, and there are sanctions. For example, that we say that for the next order, we are still waiting to see that these improvements are implemented. And we do not give them then any guarantees on working together with them on the long run. But we did not yet terminate a contract.
That's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Birgit. So far, I don't see any additional questions, neither via Twitter or the internet, email, or on the phone. So this is your chance. So we still got a couple of minutes to go. If that's not the case, probably Birgit, with the very good presentation, already tackled most of your questions. And as you always know, if you have any further questions, we're always here to serve you, and we kindly ask you to contact our SRI dedicated expert at the Investor Relations team, Simone Schlief. Her details, by the way, are on the last slide of the presentation of today, or anybody else in the Investor Relations team would be delighted to get in contact with you. With respect to the question which was handed in by Jean-Xavier, I think we have to come back to you. So far, we didn't really figure it out, but we'll definitely deliver the question thereafter. So I think the conference call is now coming to an end. We would very much like to thank you for participating at the webinar. As always, the recording will be available for the next 7 days on the web, and also the presentation is on the website. Thank you so much, and we'll be hearing each other the latest on the Q3 conference call early November. Cheers, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We'd like to thank you for participating at this webinar. The recording of this webinar will be available for the next 7 days by dialing +49 1805 2043 089 via reference number 446866. We are looking forward to hear from you again. Goodbye.